Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Frankly Speaking Titans. And boy, oh boy, are we glad to be here with you tonight. What an incredible show we have in store for you this evening. And I'll tell you what, for all you fans that do not know us, that need to get used to us, I'll tell you what, you are in for a treat. We are now streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, many other platforms as well. We want you to enjoy the show. We have a terrific show in store for you. Later on in segment 2, we're going to have on-air talent from WNSR. We're going to have Darren McFareland on. Darren McFareland will be joining us to talk about the Titans and some of the things that happened during the offseason, some of the things that we are looking forward to happen during the regular season. So we're looking forward to that. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to kick this off as always, folks. You can always leave comments in the comment sections. We encourage you to do so. Once again, please share with all your Titan fans, as like I said, we have a terrific show in store for you. Obviously, the biggest acquisition of the offseason had to be DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, what does this guy add to this team, you ask? It's incredible. And it's not just being a number one receiver. Obviously, when you look at this team, we needed a number one receiver. There was no doubt about it, no questions about it, that a number one receiver was needed on this team. And he definitely filled the void. And what it does to the offense is incredible, because now they'll double team Hopkins. Treylon Burks will be able to get open more. It'll also present Kyle Phillips more, and also don't forget about, our good old tight end Chiquanko, who is going to be a force on this team. But when you look at DeAndre Hopkins, he does much more than add a number one receiver. You ask, what else does he do, Larry? He's a number one receiver. We know he catches passes. Well, he makes every single person around him that much better. Think about how much better Ryan Tannehill will be this year because he has a number one receiver, and it'll give him an opportunity to throw to number 2 and number 3. So Ryan Tannehill becomes better. How about Derrick Henry? Folks, I'm going to go on a limb. And, we've seen Derrick Henry, a couple of years ago, rushed for 2,000 yards. I would not be surprised if he's up there again. And remember something. He did that when A.J. Brown was there, when they had a top receiver. Because a lot of people are saying, well, Larry, isn't he going to get less carries? Maybe. But look at it this way, folks. He should get more yards per carry because now this offense is not going to be so predictable. Before, they knew Derek was going to run, and they still couldn't stop him. Imagine now when you have pass action, what this is going to do to allow Derrick Henry to get more yards. And I mentioned play action. Here you have a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Last year, one of the most successful quarterbacks in the entire league at completing passes in play action situations. What did we add? We added the receiver who caught more balls than anybody else, 98, I believe it was, in play action situations. That is incredible. So now your play action becomes that much more effective. So it's an incredible scheme now that we added offensively. Also, your offensive line doesn't need to just pass rush. We had Petit Ferrer, who's going to be out, I believe, the first 6 games of the season. And, the one thing that Petit Ferrer did real well was he was great at blocking when we had rushing situations. But he was not that good when we had passing situations. So whoever fills in for him, I'm looking forward to seeing how they particularly do when it comes to playing, pass blocking for Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill should not have to run around as much with a chicken with its head cut off because of this offensive line that should be much better because it won't be all rushing for blocking for rushing. Boys, try saying that fast a couple different times. Meanwhile, you got to ask yourself a question about Ryan Tannehill. Is he being disrespected? Here's a guy in his Titans career. What is it? 4 years with the Titans. He's 36-19, 66.9% completion, 89 touchdowns, 33 interceptions. He's been with them, I said, 4 years, and he's averaging 3,200 yards passing a year. And people are still all over this guy. Even the critics and everyone else only ranks him 19th best quarterback in the league. Yet, for the most part, he keeps winning. Yes, he had a hiccup last year. Yes, he had a hiccup in that playoff game versus Cincinnati. But you got to admit, the guy has been pretty consistent and pretty stable for this Tennessee Titans team. And what do? They slap him in the face the last 2 years. What do? They go ahead and they draft 2 quarterbacks. Obviously, Malik Willis, who, I believe is not even going to make it in this league. And then Will Levis, who I am very, very high on. But you have to ask yourself, if they were so confident in the ability of Ryan Tannehill, why did they pick a quarterback the last 2 years? Now, the first question would be, why did they take Malik Willis? Obviously, they weren't very confident, like I said, in Tannehill. But then they got to see Malik Willis play and knew what I already knew. He can't play in the NFL. He wasn't good. He was terrible. They couldn't even have him throw the ball last year. But then when they found that out, they said, we don't have the right guy, maybe. They go out and take Will Levis in the second round, who has a strong arm, does have a habit of throwing interceptions, which he's going to have to correct in the NFL. But they go after Will Levis. If you're Ryan Tannehill, what are you thinking? I mean, what are you thinking? We talk about this game being, a mental game. So much of it being mental, and what is it? 75% mental, 25% ability, and yet they keep throwing things at him. It's bad enough he has that Cincinnati game on his mind that he had to take care of with some professional help. But what a slap in the face to the last 2 years to go ahead and go out there and get a quarterback. That's just my opinion of this situation. Now you got to ask yourself, who is the number 2 quarterback? Who is the number 2 quarterback behind Tannehill on this team? Is it Levis and is it Malik Willis? I would be very, very, very surprised if Malik Willis is number 2. And I'll tell you why. Number 1, he had his opportunity. He had his opportunity and he blew it. Now, there is a learning curve. There's a developmental curve. I understand that. But at the end of the day, you didn't get Will Levis to A, cut him, or B, to put him third on the depth chart. You went out and got Will Levis because you were not comfortable with the way Malik Willis performed. It's plain and simple. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So Malik Willis, as far as I'm concerned, he possibly could be cut. Don't be surprised if by the end of the preseason, Malik Willis does get cut. I mentioned this earlier on other shows, and it's a possibility. But at the end of the day, Malik Willis is not an NFL quarterback. I think Will Levis, with time, can be a very, very good quarterback. And I want to go back up to the DeAndre Hopkins acquisition that we talked about earlier in the show. One of the things we didn't mention is there was a 2-year deal, not a 1-year deal. And you have to ask yourself the question, why a 2-year deal? I mean, we don't know what he's capable. We don't know if he's fully healthy. Why would you go out there and get him for a second year? Well, especially if he has a great year, you get a steal next year. You get a steal. But this is what I think's going on, folks. Love to get your comments. Love to get your opinions in the comment section. So please leave them. But I think this could be an opportunity with what Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel is saying is, hey, let's get him 2 years. We might be able, maybe if we get close or we win the Super Bowl, we run it back one more time. We run it back with Ryan Tannehill. We run it back with Henry. We run it back up with Hopkins. And then what happens is you continue to develop someone like Will Levis, someone like Spears, another offensive lineman you get in the draft. You give Traylon Burks and Kyle Phillips and Chris Moore another year of development. So you ask why? Because listen what happens. 2 years from now when Henry's done, if not this year, okay, and Hopkins is done and Tannehill is done, you have a smooth transition now of putting Levis there, going ahead and Spears or another running back you may pick up in the draft, or even Chris Moore and Kyle Phillips developing another year along with Traylon Burks. It's a phenomenal thought process if that's what Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel is doing now. I don't know if that's what's doing, but I will tell you this, folks. If this is not a successful season this year in Tennessee, you will see the three of them, Henry, Tannehill, and Hopkins, all gone by the end of next season. Then you got to ask, is Vrabel on the scene? Here's a coach that has done unbelievable things in Tennessee. And you got to ask yourself, how big is this year for Mike Vrabel? You know, last year was terrible. He got to a big game versus Cincinnati the year before. Obviously, Tannehill threw 3 interceptions. It wasn't good enough, and they lost. But is one of the better coaches in Titans history on the block? Is he on the block? Does he have to win? And I'll tell you what, we're going to have Darren McFareland next segment. We're going to ask him some of these tough questions and see what he thinks is up with Mike Vrabel. Because I'll tell you what, I love Mike Vrabel as a coach. I really think with John Robinson there, he did not like a lot of the decisions that Robinson was making. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. I think with Rand Carthon, I think those two are going to work together. But I think Robinson and Vrabel, they were butting heads. They didn't like each other, at least from a business standpoint. I don't know about personally, but from a business standpoint, I think there's a lot of things Vrabel wanted to do that his hands were tied with that he couldn't do. So I'm excited to see this year. And in segment 3 today, folks, we're going to go ahead and go game. We have our predictions. We're going to break down each game, whether we feel here at Frankly Speaking Titans, it's going to be a win or it's going to be a loss. And we're going to give you our final predictions, which some of you have already seen on other networks where we've done some NFL shows on how the Titans would do. But you know what? I'll be very frank with you that I think this team is going to do very, very well this year, and really looking forward to see what they bring to the table. Let's go ahead. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to have on-air talent from the McFareland Show, which airs weekdays 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time on WNSR. We're going to have Darren McFareland joining us. We'll be back right after this.
13 Daggers Tattoo Studio is looking for a new tattoo artist. Must be established with a strong portfolio and good work ethic. Stop by today at 13 Daggers across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Clarksville's ultimate tattoo studio. Tattoos, touch-ups, and consultations. See the artist's work online at 13daggerstattoo.com and get the custom experience you want with killer ink. Book today and get pricked by a pro. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio. Working hard on the Boulevard.
Reminder to you all that this Tuesday, August 1st, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., it's the Major League Baseball Trade Deadline Show. That's right here on all your Frankly Speaking sports outlets, as well as all your Tobacco Road sports radio outlets. What a show we have in store for you. Myself Brett Wiseman will bring you up-to-date news on all the happenings and trades by the trade deadline, which is 6 p.m. We'll have special guests, two-time Cy Young Award winner, World Series champ, 30-game winner, Denny McLain. Also, we're going to have former Major League Baseball switch-hitting outfielder Brian McRae. Then we'll have 1985 home run leader, World Series champ, Darrell Evans, followed up by three-time All-Star 1983 Cy Young Award winner Jack McDowell. It's a show you don't want to miss. August 1st, 2 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on all your Frankly Speaking Sports and Tobacco Road Sports Radio networks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Titans. It is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to have with us today when we talk about Titans or any sport in Nashville. This guy is definitely the guy that we want to have on the show. And I'd like to welcome on-air talent from WNSR. You can listen to him from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Central Time on the McFareland Show on WNSR. Let's welcome in Darren McFareland. Darren, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so very, very much taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule for you to join us on Frankly Speaking Titans today.
What would help with my computer to work? I'm sorry I'm late.
Hey, don't worry about that. Hey, I want to start right off. The biggest story, obviously, of the offseason has been the acquisition of DeAndre Hopkins. Not only does he add a number one receiver, which we really desperately needed, but when you look at DeAndre, not only does he add a number one receiver, Darren, he adds a lot more to this team and a lot more value than the number one receiver position, doesn't he?
He does. And, I was very curious because, Larry, I've been covering this team since they got to Nashville when they were playing. I was sitting at Vanderbilt Stadium in the press box covering this team when they were the Tennessee Oilers. And I've seen a lot of these type of receivers come through here over what's going to be 25 years going into this season. And for whatever reason, with the Titans and the Oilers, it hasn't worked out. And I hope this works out. I hope this one is different. And so I decided to go to Arizona last week, ironically, before all this happened. And I brought on Bob McClanahan, who covers the Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. And we had a really in-depth conversation about him because it felt like it was getting close. It felt like it was going to happen here. And so I felt like, man, this DeAndre Hopkins thing's with full disclosure. Larry, I'll just be honest. When he first got released by the Cardinals and everybody got excited because the Titans need a receiver, I'm like, man, he's not coming here. At this stage in his career, he's probably going to, cherry pick a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills or somebody that he thinks can win, or with him, that's the final piece for him to win a Super Bowl. And so I just didn't really believe it was realistic. But then as the days went along, the weeks went along, I realized, man, this thing really is, this could happen. And then once I embraced that and accepted that, and then when we got to this point, and this was actually maybe a couple weeks ago, this was shortly before, the timing ended up working out great, that before it got out there. Now, it was just made official, as we know, yesterday, but it's been the worst kept secret for a week or so. But I went and I asked this guy who's covered him and knows DeAndre Hopkins pretty darn well. And man, after the interview, Larry, I got to be honest, I was pretty excited because obviously he painted a very flattering picture of DeAndre Hopkins I just flat out asked him, does this guy still have, does he still have gas in the tank? Or is this a guy at the end of his career is going to come here like other guys like Andre Johnson and Randy Moss and Eric Decker, and the list goes on and on, that just come here and they're like, okay, I'm done. My career is over. I got nothing left. And while Julio Jones has continued to play, it felt like that when he was here, like his career was done. And I'm like, is this the same type of deal? Or is this guy still, I'm not asking for him to be like in DeAndre Hopkins' prime, but does he still have, good production left? And he didn't hesitate, unequivocally said absolutely yes. And then what really got my attention is the fact that he said what he brings in the room. He said he is going to be fantastic in the room. He is going to be a leader. He's a guy that's going to embrace the young receivers and teach them how to be a great receiver. And that's when I perked up, and that's when I got excited, and that's when I said, you know what? I know history is history, and you can't change it. And look, they're due, right? They're due for one of these to work. But I got excited because that's exactly what I wanted to hear, and I'm sure the Titans know that, and that's why they aggressively went after him. It's a position that was really weak this offseason, and they really didn't address it in the draft. And, man, you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins into the room, a guy that teams have to game plan for no matter what he's going to do. You know, Titans fans, as we know, they are excited. You know, this is a guy that's going to get everybody excited come week one.
Yeah, you know, we didn't even mention what he does for play action. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Ryan Tannehill was one of the most successful quarterbacks in play action situations as far as accuracy, receptions, and it just so happens that DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers when it comes to play action. So you add that piece of the puzzle with the best running back in all the National Football League, you really went from an okay offense to what could be considered a dominant offense.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I want to see how Tim Kelly's going to handle this, because obviously the head coach and the OC have history with him in Houston, so they know what they're signing up for, and that's also another good sign, right? That they pursued this. They know exactly what his makeup is like. They know exactly what he's like on the field, what scenes, what he's like in the meeting rooms, what he's like in the room. And so that should be a good thing. And I am curious to see how Tim Kelly and this Titans offense, how they use him. And more importantly, whether it's play action or however they use him, going back to teams now have to game plan for him. And it can't just be Derrick Henry, because the reality is we all think Treylon Burks may be great one day. Maybe he's going to be a true number one. The Titans hope so. The fans hope so. But we don't know yet, right? I mean, I think he's just going to continue to get better. But he's not somebody that everybody is going to be out there really carving up tape on and really game planning for. Not at this point in his career. Maybe that changes. But DeAndre Hopkins is that guy. Every game this year, defenses are going to get in that room, that meeting room, and they're going to watch his patterns and his, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and how they can game plan and slow him down. And that's something the Titans desperately needed.
You know, I'll tell you something that excites me. We're talking to Darren McFareland, on-air talent at WNSR. Darren, you know, it was only, 2 years ago, I believe, when we had A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards, I believe, that year. That was the year he did it. And, you know, a lot of people talking about him getting less carries and maybe being less productive because DeAndre is here now. But I maybe have one of the weirder or more different looks than a lot of the sports on talents have, because I'm under the impression that this could help Derrick Henry more, at least from a yards per carry game, because now the offense is not going to be as predictable, and they're not going to know whether Henry's going to run on every down or if it's going to be a pass play.
Yeah, I would side with you on that. I mean, again, I don't know how this can't help Derrick Henry, because, again, who were you going to game plan before DeAndre Hopkins arrived? You know, do I think Treylon Burks can take the next step? Yes. Do I think Chig Okonkwo can take the next step? Yes. But they're not guys that defenses were going to, you know, get in a room and spend a lot of time on trying to be, until they do it. You don't get the respect of the other team's defense, right? And their coordinator and their players. You got that with Derrick Henry. You know you have that in Derrick Henry. And then you add a guy that possibly is well on his way to Canton, Ohio someday, and the skins on the wall that DeAndre Hopkins has had throughout his career. yeah, you're going to have to put attention on him. And so if you're putting attention on him, which means you're taking attention away from Derrick Henry, and we all know if DeAndre Hopkins wasn't here every single week, they're going to be in a room trying to figure out how to stop or at least slow down number 22, right? I mean, there's no secret to that. They've done that for years. But Derrick Henry is special. We all know that. But yes, this can only help Derrick Henry. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's obviously a good thing.
I want to talk about Ryan Tannehill a little bit. And, here's a guy who's 36 and 19 since coming over with the Titans. 89 touchdowns, 33 interceptions. Like I said, he's been here 4 years. To me, it feels like, and I'd love to get your take on this, Darren, that the Titans over the last couple of years have been disrespecting him, or maybe a better way of maybe not as confident in him as they should be in him. The last 2 years, what was it? 2 years ago, Malik Willis, they drafted. And then last year, Will Levis, they drafted out of Kentucky. If you're Ryan Tannehill, do you feel like this is a slap in the face? And you and I both understand how much this game, part of the game, is mental. What do you think about this? And is it a slap in the face to Ryan Tannehill?
Well, I don't know if it's a slap in the face. The reality is, Larry, the older you get in the league, and Ryan's at that age where, look, it's no secret. I mean, not everybody is going to be built like Tom Brady. Not everybody's going to be wired like Tom Brady. Like, I get it. We watched him quarterback in the NFL to almost his mid-40s, which is just unheard of. I don't think there's going to be a long line of guys. And I get it. Aaron Rodgers is next up. And I don't think he's going to go to his mid-40s, but certainly he's done it longer than most. I don't know how much longer Ryan Tannehill wants to do this. I don't know how much longer Ryan Tannehill can do this. But I know when you start getting to a certain age as a quarterback, they're going to start thinking about the future. Whether you're ready or not, they're going to start thinking about the future. And let's also be honest, okay? Let's be quite frankly about this. That Cincinnati loss in the playoffs changed things. It just did. That was not a good showing by Ryan Tannehill. It was a poor showing by Ryan Tannehill. And I think most believe, with them having the number one seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs, that was their year. Everybody felt like, whether it was going to happen or not, Larry, I don't know. Cincinnati ended up proving to be a great team. They went to the Super Bowl. So, it wasn't like they lost to some fluky team. And we know the Bengals are good. I mean, they're really good. I mean, they may come out of the AFC again this year. And if it wasn't for this guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, they probably would have gotten back there again last year. So it wasn't a fluke to lose to them. But the way Ryan Tannehill played, the 3 interceptions, and at home, it just felt like that was the year. And look, it probably changed things. It changed things in this market. It did with the media. It changed things in the market with the fans. And I don't know whether it changed things with them inside the walls or not. They're never going to tell us, but didn't they kind of tell us with exactly what you laid out? They then went and drafted Malik Willis. They then, by the way, moved up to get him. They then moved up at Will Levis to get him in the second round. So I think they are kind of telling us that, maybe while they're not ready to move on exactly right now, they are thinking about the future. And we'll see if one of these guys can be the future. But for now, I think they do. I think they really like Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is a solid quarterback. We all know it's a quarterback-driven league. Everybody's trying to get the Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's trying to get the Joe Burrow. Everybody's trying to get an Aaron Rodgers in his prime, and the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Mannings and the Drew Breeses, all the superstars that we've seen over the last couple of decades, correct? But it's hard. It's not easy. And I don't suspect that they have that in Malik Willis and Will Levis. But everybody's trying to get there, right? Everybody's trying to get that guy. Ryan Tannehill is more than just a serviceable quarterback. He's an above-average quarterback. He's just not an elite superstar quarterback. But can you win games with Ryan Tannehill? Absolutely. If everything around him is right? The offensive line is going to have to be much, much better. they're going to have to get more production, as we talked about, from the tight end position, more production from the wide receiver position. You have Derrick Henry. You know what you have there. So as long as things are right around him, you can win a lot of games with Ryan Tannehill. But look, when you get to this age, the reality is in the NFL, they're always going to be looking for somebody else down the road. That's just the nature of the beast.
Darren, is this defense, in your opinion, or has to be a top 10 defense?
Yes, I do. If healthy, I do. I really like what they have on defense. Again, if healthy, and you have to say that with this team, right? I mean, you have to. The last 2 years has been, atrocious with the injuries. I mean, they've had more injuries and used more players than anybody else in the league. Like, there's no getting around that. That's not an opinion. That's just a fact. So you have to say that. I thought, quite honestly, Larry, after the previous year when they went through 91 players, I mean, it was insane. I was like, well, there's no way. The good news is there's no way they're going to have even come close to doing that the next year. Well, they didn't get to 91, but they got pretty darn close. So they actually followed it up with being almost in the same boat as they were the previous year. So can they do it 3 years in a row and have that much bad luck? I would say no again, but man, I hope I'm not proven wrong on that. Man, Mike Vrabel will lose his mind if he has to endure all these injuries and all the roster turnover 3 consecutive years. So to answer your question, if they can stay, for the most part, I get it, injuries are a part of it. For the most part, upright and healthy for most of the season on defense, yes, I think they absolutely can be a top 10 defense.
They got a new GM, which I'm not afraid to say good thing, in Rand Carthon. Would you say this is a must-win year for Vrabel?
No, I wouldn't. I get it. They lost their last 7 games. But the reality is Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the league. He just is. And if he's out on the market, he'll be on the market for about 5 minutes. I mean, he really will. I mean, it would be silly to think. And look, has he frustrated fans? Has he frustrated the media dealing with him? Look, I don't even do it. I used to, Larry, I don't have to deal with Mike Vrabel on a daily basis. I used to be in that world. I'm not in that world anymore. I don't have to deal with him on a daily basis. And so I don't really worry about it because I know, I listen to his press conferences and I know on some days he can be a handful to deal with. But the reality is, putting that aside, no matter if he can be tough to deal with, if, he's not exactly on some days media friendly, he is still a fantastic coach. He's one of the best coaches in the National Football League. And quite honestly, if it weren't for him, with all the stuff that we've talked about with the injuries and the bad draft picks, I mean, there's a reason Rand Carthon is here because, unfortunately, John Robinson whiffed on a lot of draft picks. He whiffed on a lot of free agent signings, and he did not help the roster. You can't go back-to-back years of Isaiah Wilson. And quite honestly, I don't know what they have in Caleb Farley. I kind of feel like they're going down the same rabbit hole. And if they go 2 years in a row of a first-round pick that offers them nothing, I mean, that just sets you back. And Mike Vrabel's been able to overcome that with roster depletion and not getting those stud first-round picks year after year. I mean, yeah, they hit with Big Jeff, sure, and that helps. But look, people can say that. I don't agree with it. If they don't make the playoffs again this year, I don't believe Mike Vrabel's on any hot seat. To me, Mike Vrabel would have to do something really dumb off the field, right? Get caught up in something like that. That's not going to happen. Or they just completely tank this year where they go, 4-13, which I don't believe would happen under a Mike on a Mike Vrabel team. Then, you'll have that talk out there. But ultimately, no, Larry, I don't see a scenario whatsoever where Mike Vrabel's on a hot seat.
All right, Darren, last couple questions. We'll let you run. Who are you most excited to see out there on the field this year? I mean, of course, everybody's going to say Hopkins, but who is it that you're looking to see that one special person that could have a breakout year?
Whew, okay, that's a good question. Let's see. I think some of the guys that we've talked about already, I am curious in the aspect of, can they take that next big step in their career? Chigakonkwo, they need him to. I think he's really good. I really do. They didn't target him a ton. I want to see if maybe he can get a little bit more, because I feel like when they did, he was dynamic, right? And so I want to see if they can he kind of turn into Jonnu Smith 2.0 when Jonnu Smith was. They need more production out of the tight end position. That is a position over the years they've had great production out of. So I would like to see what he brings to the table. And then going back to, you've added DeAndre Hopkins, but can Treylon Burks continue to get better? Remember, a first round pick. Can he take another step where, no matter how long DeAndre Hopkins is here, whether it's a 1 year, whether it's 2 years, every year we're going, you know what, though? When DeAndre Hopkins leaves, they're in good hands. They've got a number one in Treylon Burks. I want to see if Treylon Burks, if there's that, because it feels like the stuff is there, but we still haven't seen enough to really believe that. And, of course, I don't know if it's a player, Larry. It's a unit. What does this offensive line look like? It was a hot mess last year. What does it look like this year? There's a lot of unknowns, right? We're not sure exactly where they're going to plug and play. Nicholas Petit-Frere is out for the first 6 games. They've drafted Peter Skoronski is their first round pick. So where does he fit in? They've added these guys like, Dillard, and where are they at in the equation? How are they going to make Brewer and these guys fit into the equation? Where are they going to Dylan Radins? He's going to be on the pop. What is he? Is he just out of sight, out of mind? Is this guy another bad pick by them? So it was more really not a player. That part is probably more of a unit. I really want to see. I'm intrigued by the offensive line. What does it look like when camp opens up tomorrow?
All right, last question, and you probably already can figure out what that's going to be. I'm not so much interested in what you think their record's going to be, Darren. My question is, can they beat out Jacksonville for this division?
I think they can. Look, I don't have a coffee mug in front of me. If I did, some people may say, what's in that coffee mug? Is it really coffee? I do think they can win the division. I don't know why it's crazy to think they can't win the AFC South. I'm not ready to anoint the Jags. I'm not ready to crown them. Again, not to show my age, Larry, but I followed this division ever since they've been in it. And you know what? Jackson has always found a way to be Jacksonville. There's just no way around it. I get it. They have Trevor Lawrence. They've added a lot of pieces. Calvin Ridley, let's see what he looks like. They do look like maybe they have the right coach in Doug Peterson. It looks like Jacksonville is the real deal. But again, can they do it 2 years in a row? I don't know. I want to see it first. So do I think the Titans can win the division? I do. I'm not ready to anoint Jacksonville. I'm also not saying that it's not going to be crazy to think Jacksonville won't win the division. I do think it's a 2-team race, but I'm not ready to act like the Titans are a 7 or 8 win team. I think they're going to hover around 9, 10 wins. And I think they're going to be right there for a division crown.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Titans today.
I enjoyed it today, Larry. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, my friend, and have a great day.
Appreciate it.
All right. That was Darren McFareland from WNSR, host of The McFarland Show. You can listen on weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time on WSNR. Let's go ahead. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to go over the schedule of the Tennessee Titans this year. game by game, what we think their record will be and how they'll finish in the AFC South. We'll be back right after this.
13 Daggers Tattoo Studio is looking for a new tattoo artist. Must be established with a strong portfolio and good work ethic. Stop by today at 13 Daggers across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Clarksville's ultimate tattoo studio. Tattoos, touch-ups, and consultations. See the artist's work online at 13daggerstattoo.com and get the custom experience you want with killer ink. Book today and get pricked by a pro. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio. Looking hard on the Boulevard.
August 1st, that's right, August 1st, couple of days away. It's the Frankly Speaking Sports Extravaganza. It's the Major League Baseball trade deadline show. Make sure to tune in as myself and my co-host, Brett Wiseman, will update you with all the latest news and trades in the world of baseball. We're going to have unbelievable guests on this show. Danny McClain, two-time Cy Young Award winner, World Series champ, and the last 30-game winner will be on the show. Former switch hitting outfielder for the couple of teams, the New York Mets, Kansas City Royals, Brian McCray. Also 1985 home run leader, World Series champ Darrell Evans will join in. Followed by three-time All-Star 1993 Cy Young Award winner, Jack McDowell. It's a show you don't want to miss. The best trade deadline show in the nation is right here on Frankly Speaking Baseball Networks and Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Make sure to tune in, folks, once again, 2 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, August 1st. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Titans. I'm your host, Larry Frankel, coming to you now on Facebook, on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, and many, many more. What a great show we've had so far. What a terrific show. We want to thank Darren McFareland so much for taking time again out of his busy schedule. Just a terrific interview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I did. And, we talked in the first segment about a lot of the great things going on with the Tennessee Titans, how they got Andre Hopkins, how they got a great offense now. We're looking forward to see what happens. We got a top-notch defense. But the one thing we didn't talk about right now is the biggest weakness on this team. And you know what that is? That is the offensive line. Obviously, the offensive line is even more banged up now that Nicolas Petit-Ferrer is out for 6 games, and that's a big loss. I would say it's a big loss. I don't know how big, but and let me explain why. Number one, Ferrer was a great rush blocking tackle. He was great at doing those things, but he wasn't great at pass blocking. And that was the thing that seemed to get Ryan Tannehill the most because he didn't have nobody protecting him. So I don't want to disrespect him. I don't want to discredit him, but he was an average offensive lineman. And when you look at this team, first of all, let me explain something to you folks. For all those critics out there and analysts and people that do prediction that ranks offensive line, yes, they're ranking this offensive line as the worst in all of football. But ignore that. Ignore that. That doesn't mean crap. I will say it again. It doesn't mean crap. I will be frank with you. It was 2021. Cincinnati Bengals made that incredible run with Joey Burrows. Did you know that Joey Burrows and the Cincinnati Bengals had the worst, I will say worst with a capital W, offensive line in the league, and they went to the Super Bowl? Now, I'm not saying that's a formula for success. I'm just saying with great quarterback play and some other things going right, this team will be fine. Remember, right now we're out there. We're giving tryouts to Chris Hubbard, I believe George Fant. And I'm going to tell you, George Fant, the one thing that he did well is what Ferrer did not do well. He was great at blocking on the pass. He wasn't the best at rush blocking, while Chris Hubbard, who they tried out, was versatile all over. He could play all over, and he even played tight end. So, that was with Cleveland and with the Steelers. So don't be surprised. I know they haven't signed either of them yet, but if they can add one of these veterans to this team, the offensive line is not as bad as everybody's magnifying it to be. And you say, what do you mean, Larry? Well, first of all, you got number 1 draft pick, Pete Skoronski. Yes, he's new. Yes, he's going to have to learn. Yes, he's going to have to develop, but he's going to be good. You picked him number 1, not to sit on the bench. You picked him number 1 so he can play. He's from Northwestern. He was the 11th overall pick. Then a lot of people don't remember that Andre Dillard, the left tackle who's slated to play left tackle, was the first-round draft pick for Philadelphia back in, I believe, 2019. The number 22 pick overall. That gives you 2 first-round draft picks to go with Ferrer when Ferrer comes back. Now, the other 2 positions is questioned. At center, you got what? Who is it? I believe Aaron Brewer, if I remember correctly, will be the center. There's some questions there. We'll see how solid. But if you build good people around other players on that offensive line, automatically they become better. I remember years ago, 3 years ago, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went to the Super Bowl. They had gotten Tristan Wirfs, and everybody around Tristan Wirfs, Donovan Smith, they became better because of the quality of the player that was next to him. Now, we don't have that kind of offensive line that was protecting Brady. Meanwhile, we have to figure out what Dylan Redunz is on the PUP list or the PUP list. We have Jordan Ross at right guard, but I would not be surprised, folks, would not be surprised if either A, we go ahead and pick somebody else up, a free agent veteran who gets cut from another team throughout the preseason, or if we see George Fant, Chris Hubbard, or who knows what else they can get, or how many offensive linemen. You never have enough offensive linemen in the NFL. So looking forward to seeing what they're doing. Don't let this bring you down. We will get this taken care of. I'm sure Rand Carthon has a bunch of things going on, and he's looking at a bunch of places, analyzing offensive linemen that'll be the right fit for this team. This offensive line, I guarantee you, by the start of the season, they will have answers for us, and they will be able to compete. To win in the AFC South, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But even to go further, I think they'll have the offensive line. Let Skoronski get developed. Let Ferrer come back, and you mix him with Dillard and then a few others, you're going to be fine. We will be fine. You have my word on that. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about the 2023 Tennessee Titans game-by-game predictions. I want to go over this game by game, telling you what my thoughts are on each game. And then at the end, we will give you the final record that we are predicting here, frankly speaking, Titans, for the Tennessee Titans this year. And then we'll also give you the AFC South division predictions, what we expect all the other teams in the AFC South to do. We will not break down their schedules. We only care about the Tennessee Titans. So let's go ahead. Let's do it. Game one, it's going to be at New Orleans, but you got to remember, Derek Carr is new to this team. Lots of questions on this team. They have Alvin Kamara. Yes, they have Michael Thomas. But these are guys that have not played well together. They don't have a proven coach. Last year, they were not very good. Had lots of issues on the offensive side and defensive side of the football. They do have Lattimore on the defense, but I think this is a game that the Tennessee Titans come out, even though they are on the road, they will win this game and be 1-0. And one of the things, except for the primetime games that the Titans are playing, as of now, every game is 12 o'clock Central Time and 1 o'clock Eastern Time, except for those primetime games, which we'll go over. Game 2 is going to be at home versus the LA Chargers. No way anybody's going to come into our stadium, Nissan Stadium, and knock our doors down. Chargers, yes, they just signed last night Justin Herbert, I think, to a 5-year extension. But I'll tell you what, folks, I am not a big fan of their coach. I think they have the worst coach in all the NFL. And I'll tell you what, this team, the Chargers, are not hurting necessarily because of the talent they have on the team, but they're hurting because of the coach. We'll be 2-0 after week 2. Then week 3, we go to Cleveland. This was a tough pick for me because Cleveland does have Deshaun Watson. They got Nick Chubb, who, what can you say about Nick Chubb? They do have Amari Cooper, who was, believe he was over 1,000 yards last year in rushing. So in receiving. So they got a very, very good team. They also got something we don't have, a very good offensive line and a very mobile quarterback. Not that Ryan Tannehill can't run with the football, but we're talking about Deshaun Watson in a very close game that I think comes down to which defense is better. That's why I'm giving us the nod, 3-0. Then we go to Cincinnati. Then we play Cincinnati at home. But, Cincinnati is a tough team. They got Joey Burrows, Jamar Chase. They got unbelievable players on this team. I don't see us winning this game. I believe this will be our first loss of the season. Then we go to Indianapolis, and I'm going to be real honest with you, folks. When I do my predictions, it's real simple. We have 2 division games versus each team in our division. Makes sense? I always say we win at home and we lose on the road. It's just the way it seems to work out year after year. Last year, I don't know if it was that way, but the Tennessee Titans in the division were 3-3. So it's just the way I do it. For that reason, in Indianapolis, and it can go either way, but since it's on the road, I'm going to say we lose that game. We'll be 3-2 after week 5. Then we got Baltimore. Believe that Baltimore game is that I believe is a Thursday night or no, I'm sorry. That game's in London, if I remember right. That's an 8:30 game. We go to London. I don't think Baltimore that's good. I'm not a big Lamar Jackson fan. I just think they're overrated. Yes, I know they win. I just believe this is a team that we can beat. We're going to go to London, and we're going to come home victorious. Then guess what, folks? That puts us at 4-2, and we have our bye week. That's right. Bye week comes in right away. After 6 games? I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad, but we'll take some time off, and when we come back, we play Atlanta at home. That should be a win. Atlanta's not a good team. Atlanta is not a good team. I don't see them winning. Desmond Ridder is not going to beat our defense. Then, guess what? How about another primetime game? This one on a Thursday night in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you what, Pittsburgh's one of those teams this year that I pick to be a surprise. There's always those teams that don't get to the playoffs one year, and it seems there's like 4 or 5 teams the next year they get to the playoffs. I think Pittsburgh is going to do that. I like Kenny Pickett. I like what Tomlin's doing with this team, but I don't think they'll win here on Thursday night. Even though the game is home, I'm taking the Tennessee Titans. Then we move on to Tampa Bay. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, Tampa Bay is not a good team. I actually picked them to come in last in the NFC South for my predictions. I think I predicted them to have 6 wins this year, and one of them will not be versus the Tennessee Titans. This is a team that doesn't even have a quarterback, doesn't have a running back, and anyone that says, well, they got Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield is no way even close to what Ryan Tannehill brings to the table. Actually, if you ask me, I think Kyle Trask should be starting by that time. But at the end of the day, this team, that is a team that has just lost everything, doesn't have the right coach, doesn't have the right culture, doesn't have the right leadership. Everything went down when not when just Brady left, but when Arians left, and this will be a win for the Tennessee Titans. Then they're at Jacksonville. Oh, what a division game. We look forward to this. But once again, it's at Jacksonville. Like I said earlier, division games on the road. I always predict the Titans to lose. And this will be a close game. But at the end of the day, I think Jacksonville prevails. A lot of people are saying Jacksonville isn't as good as they were last year. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I still think they're a darn good team. I like Trevor Lawrence. I think Peterson is doing a good job there. But at the end of the day, this game, I think Jacksonville wins. We move on and play Carolina, one of the much improved teams in the NFC South. The only problem is they have a similar issue that Tennessee had before they got DeAndre Hopkins. They don't got a number one receiver. They got Adam Thielen there, but, DJ Chalk there, but they don't have that 1,000-yard receiver. And they got a brand new quarterback in Bryce Young that's going to take his bumps, going to take his bruises. And with now they do have a good defense, folks, a top 10 defense, just like the Tennessee Titans. But I think in this game, the Tennessee Titans defense is going to be too much for Bryce Young to handle. And I don't think Miles Sanders will be able to run all over us in Carolina. I'm picking the Tennessee Titans. Then Indianapolis at home. That's right. Indianapolis at home. We're going to crush them. Indianapolis is not a good team. We're playing them at home. They got a brand new quarterback, rookie, Anthony Richardson from Florida. This is a game that should be easily won by the Titans. Then Monday night in Miami. For some reason, folks, don't ask me why, but we don't play Miami well. I don't remember us ever really playing Miami well. Miami has a good young team. I don't think they're as good either as everybody's expecting them to be with Tua. They do have Waddle as a receiver. They got a good team. They got a competitive team. But on this night, on Monday night in prime time, sorry, folks, I'm taking the Miami Dolphins in this game to lose this game. Then the Texans at home. No questions about it. Houston's getting better, slowly progressing, but they're not there yet. I think they'll beat out Indianapolis this year and they won't be in last. But at the end of the day, we will beat Houston that game. Then with 3 games left in the season, Seattle Seahawks. Is Geno Smith going to be the same Geno Smith he was last year? I don't know. I don't care. As long as on this day he isn't, because I have the Tennessee Titans winning this game as well. And then we play at Houston. And folks, I know I said Houston's not a good team, but remember, last year they beat us. Towards the end of the season, a divisional game on the road. What do? We lose. So that's a loss. And then the last game of the season, and a lot could ride on this last game. It's Jacksonville at home. What a way to end the season. Should it be, a tight battle? We have the home field advantage playing Jacksonville at home. I believe we win this game. It's at home. I think we have a much better team than Jacksonville. And I think at the end of the day, we will win this game. So those are my predictions game by game. You asked Larry, what does that equate out to from a record standpoint? Well, let's take a look. When you look at the projected divisions, frankly speaking, Titans is predicting the Tennessee Titans to go 12-5. 12-5. Not a bad record. And they will win the AFC Southern Division by 3 games. Remember earlier on other shows, if you watch my Frankly Speaking sports shows, I said that the Tennessee Titans will be 3 games better if they signed DeAndre Hopkins. At that time, I had him winning 9 games. Well, guess what? We signed DeAndre Hopkins. Boom, 3 games are added. They're 12-5. Jacksonville finishes out 9-8. Will not make the playoffs, Jacksonville. Houston 6-11. And I have Indianapolis coming in last at 5-12. So those are my predictions for the AFC South. Love to get your feedback. You can leave comments as always. For those of you that are watching the show, on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you can leave messages. That's right. You can leave messages in the comment section. All you have to do is allow permissions from StreamYard to use your message, which is not that difficult to do. But folks, I'll tell you what, we've had a show already. Incredible. I hope you enjoyed the show. Love to get your feedback. Love to know what you think of our show. I'll tell you what, we've had a great time so far in our first episode this year. Give us the feedback. And remember, next Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m. Central Time, we'll be back with Frankly Speaking.